The truth isn't positive or negative. It's just the truth. Now, here's some more of it. This is the Sports Source.
All right, welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Parkside Cabin Rentals, big or small. They have floor plans for every possible design you could want, whether it's for a romantic getaway or for a big holiday family gathering. Big stone fireplaces, hot tubs, entertainment options like you wouldn't believe, and free parking in downtown Gatlinburg. ParksideCabinRentals.com to learn more. Again, all of their floor plans, their designs are right there on the website. See it for yourself. Check it out today. All right. We have another panelist to introduce right now. We got David Ubben from The Athletic right there. David, thanks for joining us. All right, ESPN's Outside the Lines team did a story this week on college football programs and coaches who they say have final say, or they're reporting that it's been said that they have final say over training staff, and therefore they can exert pressure over the training staff to clear players before they are ready to play, or to say, no, he's healthy. Texas A&M, Penn State, and Tennessee were all covered. Texas A&M caught the brunt of it. VFL Darren Kirkland Jr. Made a comment, and here's his quote that was used. "If I had more time for my knee, I feel like I would have been healthier long term, probably would have healed up, probably would have been playing ball." Honestly, he went on in that quote. He said he didn't have any hard feelings toward Tennessee or anything. That was just his personal. It really wasn't any kind of a damning comment from Darren Kirkland, I didn't think. But anyway, ESPN also pointed out that former UT employees said Pruitt tried to pressure trainers. Now, Pruitt didn't talk to ESPN, and UT denied the allegations. They have right there a statement released by Tom Sakowiak, the UT Associate Athletic Director of Communications. Tennessee disputes any notion that it violated the NCAA's medical autonomy rules at any time. We have a long-standing culture of prioritizing student-athlete health and wellness. Our sports medicine staff reports directly to the Director of Athletics. Okay, let's start with Tennessee denying that anybody was fired at Pruitt's behest. Jimmy, your thoughts on that one?
I think Jeremy Pruitt was influential in them getting rid of Greg Mathieu and Russ Betcher. I think he did fire them, and he did it when Philip Fulmer was in Alaska. I've had at least 4 sources that have told me that. And then I know Mathieu was really upset about it. I think Betcher may be still working in some capacity at Tennessee, but they took him off football because Pruitt wanted his own people in place, and so they brought in 2 different people. So, yeah, I think they did make some changes.
Okay. Is this a major story? And let me preface that. Pruitt should be glad this came out when it did. If this had come out when he was 1-3 or 1-4 and people were all, okay, who are the other coaches we can get in here, it would have been taken as gospel truth. Another reason to get rid of it. It happened when it came out when he was 6-5 and everybody's in love with him, and this is nonsense. It's just disgruntled ex-employees. They're losers. How big a story is this? Is it just a bad look? Do you buy into it? I mean, we on the show have questioned their seriousness about concussions.
The whole rub the dirt on your forehead and the concussion.
I think it's an important story, but I think you need to get more inside of what's going on with it to see, is it a huge story? But I think it's important with the way player health is considered these days. It's taken very seriously. I think it's important, but I don't think the ESPN story was definitive. I think right now I'm going to go with it's a bad look.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. I think you have people who were inside the program, and that's sort of their interpretation of events. And I think in 2019, it's not a great idea for journalists to attack other journalists. I think if there is irresponsibility happening, or if there is facts that are wrong, then I think you have a responsibility to correct those things. I don't think there's either of those things in the story. I think there might be some important context missing in some of those things. Darren Kirkland's injury history, I believe he believes that maybe his career would have been lengthened if this had been played.
No proof to
I don't know that that's true. And does a coach have a right to get his training staff in there? I think maybe so. But it's really difficult to say, and I think too, this sort of came off as Kirkland attacking the program, whether he was or wasn't. And I think when the day before it says he's coming back from the tee, and this is a decision they made like a year ago, that probably should be included in there. So it's tough to say. I think there's nothing in there that I think is false necessarily. I think it's people that were inside the program saying this is what I think happened. Tennessee says this is what they think happened, and you have to leave it up to folks reading it to interpret it how they will.
Okay.
And John, you asked how big of a story it is, so that brings it to the fan base as well, right? I'd say for Tennessee fans right now, not as big of a story because you're really happy with the way things are going with Jeremy Pruitt. I'd be curious, what is the reaction in College Station, as Texas A&M is mentioned in the story, and they finish a disappointing 7-5 and get walloped by LSU. They're probably not as happy with Jimbo Fisher, and he's got a huge contract. If next year doesn't go well, fans could then bring this back up and say, well, you've got this going on as well.
And Texas A&M and Penn State caught the brunt of this article too. It was a little like, oh, and we got some on Tennessee too to give some beef to this. It wasn't, the reporting on the Tennessee end wasn't as deep as some of the others. But I will say this again. You look at my only question is about the concussion issue. Last year we talked about it on the show. Garantano still looked concussed when he played against Vanderbilt. Maybe he wasn't. He looked it. You go back to Maurer this year. You had him throwing the day after a concussion. That's not supposed to be doing that. And then you had him throwing the day before he's at Vanderbilt, getting checked up at Vanderbilt Medical Center. That doesn't look good either. That would be my concern with it. But I don't know that there was anything definitive here. I don't think it was ESPN trying to attack the program.
But as an observation, don't you think Jeremy Pruitt comes across as a rub some dirt on it guy?
Yes.
I mean, he would be, if you took Jeremy Pruitt back 40 years to the 1970s, he would fit in with that kind of
Yeah, the
coach,
general
that style
tenor, the
of
way that he
coach.
sort of talks about injuries, certainly. I think anything in the story, I don't know that it was a stretch of the imagination to say, oh, he's yelling at the training staff to let the guy like. I don't find that hard to believe personally.
Final thoughts, Jimmy?
No, and I think David hit it on the nail earlier when he talked about there's not definitive proof in regard to Kirkland. Yeah, he may believe it. So do I think Pruitt has an old-fashioned type approach to it? I do. I think he also has to be careful to make sure he listens to the medical staff, which I'm not saying he doesn't. I just think he needs to make sure he does.
All right, very good. When we come back, will the SEC get 4 teams into the Big Six bowls? Looks like a long shot at this point. Will it happen? If so, that moves Tennessee up a notch in the SEC's bowl pickings. Where the ball's going to go bowling, we'll make our bets next on the Sports Source. Much more to come.